The wrench slipped again and Bridget Cole swore under her breath. Her knuckles were already bleeding from 3 different scrapes, and the ventilation panel still would not come loose. She was cramped inside a maintenance shaft barely wide enough for her shoulders, breathing air that smelled like rust and old grease. This was her life now. 8 months on Outpost Talus 7, fixing things that should have been replaced decades ago. The comm unit on her belt crackled. "Cole, you done yet? We need that sub-level ventilation running in 20 minutes. Bridget recognized the voice. Foreman Dulrich, a Vescon who seemed to enjoy making everyone miserable. His species looked like walking lizards, but meaner. "Almost there," she lied, yanking harder on the wrench. The bolt finally gave way. The panel dropped with a clang that echoed down the shaft. Bridget squeezed through the opening and dropped into the corridor below. Her boots hit metal floor and she looked around. This was sub-level 9. She had never been down here before. The lighting was dim, just emergency strips along the walls. Everything looked older here, more industrial. Like this part of the station had been built first and then forgotten. Her scanner beeped. The ventilation hub was supposed to be 50 meters ahead, through a set of heavy doors marked with warning symbols. Bridget walked forward, her footsteps echoing. The doors were sealed, but her maintenance override code worked. They slid open with a groan of protesting metal. The chamber beyond was enormous. Bridget stepped inside and stopped dead. Her brain tried to process what she was seeing, but it did not make sense. The room was the size of a shuttle hangar. In the center, chained to the floor and walls with massive restraints, was a creature. It was huge, easily the size of a small ship. Its body was covered in dark scales that might have been black or deep blue, hard to tell in the dim light. 4 legs were shackled to the floor. Wings, tattered and scarred, were bound tight against its back. Its neck was long, serpentine, ending in a head that was definitely reptilian but also something else. Something intelligent. A metal muzzle clamped its jaws shut. Tubes and cables ran from its spine to machines that hummed and sparked. Bridget's heart hammered. This was a living being. She had heard stories, legends about creatures like this. Stardrakes, Scarith, ancient aliens that used to fly between worlds before ships existed. Everyone thought they were myths. The creature's eye opened. Just one, the other was scarred shut. The eye was golden, and it fixed on Bridget with an intensity that made her skin prickle. She could see intelligence there, pain, and something else that made her chest hurt. Recognition, maybe, or hope. Movement on the far side of the chamber caught her attention. 2 figures in lab coats. One was Eldrosian, an insect-like species with multiple arms. The other was something Bridget did not recognize. They were working at a control panel adjusting settings. One of the machines attached to the creature whined louder. The creature shuddered. Its one good eye squeezed shut. "Increase extraction to 40%, the Eldrosian said. Her voice was cold, clinical. "Asset K-17 can handle it. Asset. They called this intelligent being an asset." Bridget felt sick. She backed toward the ventilation hub, trying not to make noise. Her job was to fix the air circulation, not to ask questions. That was the rule on places like Talus 7. Keep your head down. Do your work. Go home with your pay. She had learned that lesson on Earth, growing up in the Detroit slums where asking questions got you hurt. But as she worked on the ventilation system, replacing burned-out circuits and clearing blocked filters, she could not stop looking at the creature. It was watching her, not the scientists. Her. Its breathing was labored. She could see its ribs through gaps in the scales. This thing was starving. Bridget accessed a nearby terminal while the scientists were distracted. Her fingers moved quickly, pulling up maintenance logs. The files were old, some dating back decades. Asset K-17, captured 47 years ago. Bioelectric power source, capable of generating enough energy to run a small city. Status stable but declining. 47 years. This creature had been chained here for 47 years. She found more files. Expedition reports. The Scarith had not died out naturally. They had been hunted. Hunted by consortium forces because they were valuable, because their bodies could generate power, because they bonded with other species and made them stronger, and that was dangerous to the established order. This creature had been a person once. It had a life, maybe a family. Now it was a battery. Bridget finished her repairs in silence. The scientists left before she did, barely acknowledging her existence. She was just a human maintenance worker, invisible, When they were gone, she stood there for a long moment looking at the creature. It was still watching her. "I'm sorry," she whispered. The words felt useless. The creature's eye closed slowly, then opened again. Was that acknowledgement? Bridget left. She rode the elevator back to the habitation levels in a daze. Her shift ended. She went to her tiny quarters, showered, tried to eat. The protein paste rations tasted like nothing. She could not stop thinking about what she had seen. That night, lying in her bunk, Bridget stared at the ceiling. She thought about her grandmother, the woman who had raised her after her parents died. Her grandmother had been tough, practical, but kind. She always said that how you treat the powerless says everything about who you are. She had taught Bridget to make soup, real soup with actual vegetables when they could afford them. She said food was how people showed love. Bridget sat up. Her grandmother had been dead for 3 years now. But her lessons remained. She looked at the small cooking unit in her quarters. It was better than most workers got, a perk of being in environmental maintenance. She had ingredients, potatoes, leeks, some spices. She could make soup. Real soup, not the paste everyone else ate. The question was simple. Was she the kind of person who saw suffering and did nothing? Or was she her grandmother's granddaughter? Bridget got out of bed and started cooking. The decision was already made. Tomorrow she would go back to sub-level 9, and she would bring food. The creature in the dark deserved at least that much. One person who saw it as something more than an asset. One act of kindness in decades of cruelty. It would not fix anything. It would not set it free, but maybe, just maybe, it would matter. 3 days passed before Bridget could go back. Foreman Dulrich kept assigning her work in the upper levels, far from sub-level 9. She fixed air filters and replaced coolant lines and tried not to think about golden eyes watching her from the dark. But she did think about it, constantly. On her 3rd night, she accessed the station's work schedule through her terminal. There was a pattern to the security patrols. Night cycle between 0200 and 0400 hours, only one guard covered sub-level 9. The scientist did not work those hours either. If she was going to do this, that was her window. Bridget prepared carefully. She made potato and leek soup, the same recipe her grandmother had taught her. It took nearly all her saved ingredients. The smell filled her tiny quarters, rich and warm. It smelled like home, like earth, like someone caring enough to make real food. She poured the soup into a thermos container and clipped it to her belt. Then she grabbed her maintenance kit. If anyone asked, she was responding to a faulty sensor alert on sub-level 9. She had already created a fake work order in the system. Not exactly legal, but Talus 7 ran on broken rules anyway. The corridors were empty during night cycle. Most workers slept. Bridget took the service elevator down, her heart pounding. This was stupid, dangerous, she could lose her job. Or worse, but she kept seeing that eye. That moment of recognition. The doors to the chamber were still sealed. Her override code worked again. She slipped inside and let them close behind her. The vast room was darker now, lit only by the glow of machines and emergency lighting. The creature was still there, chained exactly as before. Of course it was. Where else would it be? Bridget approached slowly. Her boots made small sounds on the metal floor. The creature's eye opened and fixed on her immediately. She saw surprise there. It had not expected her to return. "Hey," she said softly. "I brought you something." She moved closer, close enough to see the fresh wounds on its scales. They had increased the power extraction. The cables running into its spine were glowing brighter than before. The creature's breathing was more labored. It was dying slowly, she realized. They were using it up. The metal muzzle clamped the creature's jaws shut. Bridget examined it, walking around the massive head. There had to be a way to open it, at least partially. The scientist must be able to feed it something. She found the mechanism, a pressure lock on the side, designed so that multiple manipulator arms could operate it. But Bridget had tools. And despite what the consortium thought, humans were good at solving problems. She selected a thin pry bar and a calibrated wrench. "This might hurt," she warned. "I'm going to try to lift this just enough." The creature watched her with that golden eye. It did not struggle or pull away. It trusted her. Or maybe it was just too tired to care anymore. Bridget worked the lock carefully. The muzzle was designed to be unbreakable from the inside, but it had external maintenance points. After 10 minutes of effort, she managed to create a gap of about 3 inches at the front. Enough. She unclipped the thermos and opened it. Steam rose up, carrying the smell of potato and leek soup. The creature's nostril flared. Its eye widened. "It's not much," Bridget said, "but it's real food. My grandmother taught me to make it. She said food is how we show love. And I know you probably don't understand me, but I'm sorry for what they did to you, what they're doing." She tipped the thermos carefully, letting soup flow through the gap in the muzzle. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the creature's throat moved. It was drinking. Slowly, carefully, like it was afraid this might be a dream. Bridget poured more. The creature drank it all. She had brought almost a liter of soup, and it disappeared in minutes. When the thermos was empty, the creature made a sound, low, rumbling, coming from deep in its chest. Not quite a purr. Not quite a growl. Something between pain and gratitude. "You're welcome," Bridget whispered. She stood there for a while, just looking at this massive being. In the low light, she could see scars covering its body, decades of them, some old and healed, some fresh. This creature had survived horrors she could not imagine. "I'll come back," she promised. "I don't know if it helps, but I'll come back." The eye watched her leave, and as Bridget reached the door, she felt something. A warmth in her chest, right over her heart, like a tiny flame had been lit there. She pressed her hand to her sternum, confused. The feeling faded but did not disappear completely. Bridget made it back to her quarters without being spotted. She collapsed on her bunk, adrenaline finally draining away. She had done it. One small act. It would not save the creature. It would not change anything, but she felt different somehow. That warmth in her chest remained. She returned the next night, and the night after that. Each time she brought food. Sometimes soup, sometimes stew. Once a simple rice dish with vegetables. Whatever she could make with her limited supplies. And each time the creature drank or ate what she offered. On the 5th visit, something changed. Bridget was telling a story while the creature ate, talking about Earth and the forest her grandmother had shown her once as a child. The creature finished the food and then, very slowly, lowered its massive head toward her. Bridget froze. The head was enormous, each scale the size of her hand. The creature moved with careful precision, bringing its snout close to her. Not threatening, almost gentle. Its nostril flared, breathing in her scent. Then she felt it. A presence in her mind. Not words exactly, more like feelings. Images. A sense of recognition deeper than anything she had experienced before. She saw flashes of something. Fire and stars. Wings spread wide over an open sky. The feeling of wind and freedom, and beneath it all a single clear emotion. Gratitude. "You understand me," Bridget breathed. "You're not just an animal. You're a person." The presence in her mind strengthened. Agreement, yes. Person. Awareness. So long alone, so long silent. But now someone sees. Someone cares. Bridget reached out slowly and placed her hand on the creature's scales. They were warm, warmer than she expected. That warmth in her chest flared brighter. She gasped. The creature pulled back, concerned. The presence withdrew slightly. "No, it's okay," Bridget said quickly. "I feel it too. I don't know what it is, but I feel it." She did not know that she had just triggered something ancient, something the consortium had forgotten to fear. Bridget started bringing food every single night. A week turned into 2 weeks. The creature was changing. She could see it happening. The dull scales were regaining color, shifting from murky gray to deep midnight blue. The wounds on its body were healing faster than they should. Most importantly, its eye had life in it now. Real burning life. She had started calling it Ashgar. The name came from her grandmother's old language, something about keeping fire. It felt right. When she said the name, the presence in her mind responded with warmth and approval. Their connection was growing stronger. Bridget could feel Ashgar's emotions now, even when she was not in the chamber. During her work shifts, she would suddenly feel pain and know they were extracting more power. At night, when she brought food, she felt relief wash through her that was not her own. Ashgar was teaching her things through the bond. Not with words, but with images and sensations. She learned that Ashgar's species, the Scarith, had been guardians once. They bonded with other races, protected them, helped them grow. But the consortium saw bonded species as threats, independent powers that could not be controlled. So they hunted the Scarith down. Ashgar had been young when captured, just learning to fly. There had been others, a family. They were all dead now. Ashgar was the last. No, Bridget thought back through their connection. Not the last. You're still here. You're still alive. She felt Ashgar's response, gratitude mixed with something new. Hope. On the 15th night, Bridget brought chicken soup with vegetables. As she was lifting the muzzle, the chamber doors opened. She spun around, heart-stopping. Dr. Pinnessy stood there, the Eldrosian scientist. Her compound eyes reflected the machine lights. Interesting, Dr. Pinnessy said. Her voice was flat, impossible to read. How long has this been happening? Bridget's mind raced. Deny everything, run? Neither would work. 2 weeks, she said finally. No point in lying now. Dr. Pinnessy walked closer, her multiple arms holding data tablets. She studied Ashgar with clinical focus. Asset K-17's cellular structure has been changing. Power output fluctuates wildly. We could not determine the cause. She turned her eyes to Bridget. Until I reviewed security footage, are you going to report me? That depends. Dr. Pinnessy approached Ashgar, who watched her with obvious distrust. Do you know what you have done, human? I gave it food, treated it like a person. You created a chain bond. Dr. Pinnessy's voice held something Bridget had not heard before. Awe. The Scarith are empathic bonding species. When one accepts food from another while captive, it triggers a biological response, an ancient survival mechanism. The Scarith marks the giver as bonded kin, connected, family. Bridget felt the warmth in her chest pulse. What does that mean? It means Asset K-17 is becoming stronger, much stronger. A bonded Scarith can access power levels 50 times higher than normal. The bond supercharges both participants. Dr. Pinnessy's mandibles clicked together. It also means the quantum-locked restraints will not hold much longer. The chains are designed for an unbonded Scarith. They are already showing molecular fractures. You're going to kill it, Bridget said. Aren't you? Before it breaks free. Dr. Pinnessy was silent for a long moment. I have been documenting consortium activities for 11 years. War crimes, exploitation, genocide. I thought I had seen the worst of it. She gestured at Ashgar. This creature has been tortured for 47 years. Used as a battery. I have been part of that. I told myself it was necessary, that it was just following orders. And now I see what I should have seen from the beginning. This is not an asset. This is a person. Dr. Pinnessy met Bridget's eyes. I will not report you, but you need to understand what is coming. When the consortium realizes what has happened, they will not simply terminate Asset K-17. They will kill you both. Bonds are forbidden for exactly this reason. They give power to those who should not have it. Bridget looked at Ashgar. The Great Eye watched her steadily. Through their bond, she felt the creature's determination, not just to survive, to protect her. They had hurt Ashgar for decades, but it had endured. Now it had someone to fight for. How long? Bridget asked. Before they figure it out? Days, perhaps less. Dr. Pinnessy checked her tablets. I have been deleting anomalous data, but Foreman Dulrich is not stupid. He will investigate personally soon. Can the chains hold until then? Unknown. The bond is still developing. I have never seen this process before. No one has, not for centuries. Dr. Pinnis moved toward the door, then paused. For what it is worth, human, what you did was foolish. It was also the most decent act I have witnessed in my lifetime. I hope you both survive what comes next. She left. The doors sealed behind her. Bridget stood there, trying to process everything. A chain bond. That explained the warmth, the connection, the way she could feel Ashgar even from far away. They were linked now. Family not by blood but by choice, Ashgar rumbled softly. The presence in her mind was strong, clearer than ever before. Images flooded through their bond. Ashgar showed her memories. The Scarith homeworld, a place of vast skies and floating cities. Ashgar's family playing in thermal currents. The day the consortium ships came, fire and screaming and the death of everything. Then captivity, decades blurring together. Pain and darkness and the slow draining of life. Giving up, accepting that this was all there was, all there would ever be. Until a small human with bleeding knuckles and sad eyes brought soup. And everything changed. Bridget understood now. She was not just feeding a creature. She was giving Ashgar a reason to live again. And Ashgar was giving her purpose. Her whole life she had been powerless. A poor kid from Detroit, then a maintenance worker on a forgotten station. Invisible, disposable. But now she mattered. She had a connection to something ancient and powerful and good. I won't let them hurt you anymore, Bridget said aloud. I don't know how, but I won't. Ashgar's presence wrapped around her mind like a protective embrace. The feeling was mutual. They would protect each other. Whatever came next, they would face it together. The chains creaked softly in the darkness. Molecular fractures spreading slowly through quantum-locked metal. Neither of them noticed yet, but the countdown had already begun. Foreman Dulrich was waiting in Bridget's quarters when she returned from her shift. She knew immediately that everything had fallen apart. He stood with 3 security officers, all armed. Her cooking unit was open, the thermos sitting on the counter where she had left it that morning. Maintenance worker Cole, Dulrich said, his reptilian face showing no emotion. You are under arrest for sabotage, unauthorized access to restricted areas, and destruction of consortium property. I didn't destroy anything, Bridget said quietly. Asset K-17's market value has decreased 40% in 3 weeks. That is destruction. Dulrich gestured to the security officers. Take her. They grabbed her arms. Bridget did not resist. There was no point. She felt Ashgar through their bond, sudden alarm and rage flooding from the creature's mind to hers. She tried to send calm back, but it was hard when her own heart was racing. They brought her to the station command center, a room she had never seen before. All polished surfaces and displays showing station operations. Consortium representatives were present, including a Volusion administrator with skin like polished stone. He looked at Bridget like she was an insect. Do you understand the severity of your actions? The administrator asked. I gave someone food. You contaminated valuable consortium property. Worse, you created a chain bond. He tapped a control panel. A holographic display appeared, showing molecular scans of Ashgar's restraints. Bridget could see the fractures now, spreading through the chains like cracks in ice. Do you understand what will happen when those restraints fail? That creature will be free, uncontrolled, dangerous. Ashgar won't hurt anyone who doesn't deserve it. The slap came fast. Dulrich's hand cracked across her face, splitting her lip. You do not name consortium assets, he snarled. You have committed crimes against corporate law. The sentence is mind wipe and sale to labor contractors, mind wipe. They would erase her memories, her personality, everything that made her Bridget Cole. She would become an empty shell, following orders until her body gave out. Through their bond, she felt Ashgar's response. Pure incandescent fury. There is a complication, Dr. Pinnessy said from the doorway. Everyone turned. The Eldrosian scientist entered, carrying data tablets. The bond is now permanent. Attempting to mind-wipe the human will trigger a catastrophic response in Asset K-17. The creature will die, taking millions of credits in value with it. The administrator's expression darkened. Then we execute her after the wipe. The bond will sever with death. No, Dr. Pinnessy said flatly. The bond works both ways. If the human dies, Asset K-17 will follow within hours. If Asset K-17 dies, the human will follow. They are linked now. Killing one kills both. Bridget felt cold horror wash through her. Not for herself. For Ashgar. After everything the creature had survived, she had accidentally sentenced it to death with her kindness. The administrator considered this. Then we will terminate both. The asset is compromised anyway. Better to harvest what remaining value we can and dispose of the contaminated materials. They were going to kill them, both of them. Bridget felt Ashgar through their bond, and what she felt terrified her. The creature was not afraid. It was done. Done with captivity. Done with pain. Done with being used. In the chamber 9 levels below, something changed. The warmth in Bridget's chest became burning heat. She gasped, pressing a hand to her sternum. The bond was doing something, activating fully. She felt strength flowing into her, borrowed from Ashgar. Her muscles tightened, her senses sharpened. This was what Dr. Pinnessy had meant. The bond made both of them stronger, and Ashgar was about to use all that strength. Wait, Bridget said. Don't do this. There has to be another way. There is no other way, the administrator said. Security, prepare for termination procedures. We do this now before the restraints fail. Through their bond, Bridget felt Ashgar gathering power, all the bioelectric energy the creature had generated for decades, all the strength it had stored and hidden. Everything was being pulled into one massive surge. The creature that had been passive for 47 years was about to fight back. "Please," Bridget begged. She was not sure if she was talking to the consortium or to Ashgar. "Don't," but Ashgar had made its decision. She felt it clearly through their bond. No more chains. No more watching others suffer. If they were going to die, they would die free. The lights flickered. Once, twice. Then the entire station plunged into darkness. Emergency lighting kicked in, bathing everything in red. Alarms started blaring. The security officers looked confused, checking their weapons and communications. Nothing worked. Every electronic system on the station was dead. "What is happening?" Delric demanded. Dr. Pinnessy checked her tablet. It was one of the few devices still functioning, shielded for research purposes. Her compound eyes widened. "Asset K-17 is draining all power from the station grid. Everything. It is pulling energy back into itself." "That's impossible. The extraction systems have safety limits. It is not using the extraction systems anymore. It is simply taking." A sound echoed through the station, deep resonant coming from somewhere far below. A roar, not of pain this time, of rage, of freedom finally within reach. The floor shook once, twice. Metal shrieked somewhere in the distance. Bridget knew exactly what was happening. The chains were breaking, molecular fractures becoming full breaks, quantum locks failing against a power they were never designed to contain. "All security to sub-level 9, the administrator shouted into his dead comm unit. "Terminate Asset K-17 immediately." But Bridget knew it was too late. She felt it through their bond. The exact moment the first chain snapped. Then another. Then another. Ashgar's wings unfurling for the first time in 47 years. The creature rising to its full height, shaking off decades of captivity like dust. And then Ashgar roared again. But this time there were words in the sound. Words carried on bioelectric waves that only Bridget could fully understand. One word that made her heart clench. Bridget. She had never heard Ashgar speak before. The voice was ancient, powerful, beautiful. In the darkness through 9 levels of station superstructure, Ashgar was coming, and nothing in the universe was going to stop it from reaching her. The station shook again, harder this time. Structural support beams groaned. The security officers backed toward the door, their weapons suddenly seeming very small and useless. Bridget felt every step Ashgar took through their bond. The creature was moving through the station levels, tearing through walls and floors, coming straight up toward her like a missile. "Stop it," the administrator screamed at Dr. Pinnessy. "Override the neural locks. Shut it down." "There are no neural locks. We never needed them." The chains were supposed to be enough. Another roar shook the walls. Closer now, maybe 3 levels away. Bridget could feel Ashgar's joy mixed with rage. Free. Finally free, and nothing would keep them apart. The Velusian administrator ran, just bolted through the door, abandoning any pretense of control. Delric followed him a second later. The security officers looked at each other, then at Bridget, then made the smart choice and ran too. Dr. Pinnessy stayed. She approached Bridget calmly and released the restraints holding her. "Go, meet it. If you can calm the creature, there may be a chance to negotiate an exit that does not involve mass casualties. Why are you helping me? Because I am tired of being part of something evil." Dr. Pinnessy handed Bridget a data chip. "Everything. All my documentation of consortium crimes. Get it out if you can." Bridget took the chip and ran. The corridors were chaos, workers and scientists fleeing in panic. The lights were still out, only emergency systems functioning. She ran toward the sound of destruction while everyone else ran away. The hangar bay. That was where Ashgar would emerge. Bridget knew it instinctively through their bond. She sprinted down corridors and through access tunnels, her borrowed strength from the bond making her faster than she had ever been before. She burst into the hangar just as the floor exploded upward. Metal and concrete flew in all directions. Ashgar rose through the opening like a dark god, wings spreading wide, filling the entire space. The creature was magnificent. Scales gleaming midnight blue, wings tattered but powerful, golden eyes blazing with inner fire. Ashgar saw her immediately. The presence in her mind surged forward, overwhelming, full of relief and fierce protectiveness. The great head lowered and Bridget ran forward. She placed both hands on Ashgar's scarred snout, feeling the warmth of living scales. "You're free," she whispered. Finally free. Ashgar rumbled deep in its chest. Images flooded through their bond. Decades of pain washing away, the joy of spreading wings again, and underneath it all, gratitude for the small human who had seen a person where everyone else saw a battery. Weapons fire erupted behind them. Security forces had arrived, firing plasma rifles at Ashgar's back. The shots hit scales and bounced off harmlessly. Ashgar did not even flinch. But Bridget felt the creature's response building. Ashgar could generate bioelectric pulses strong enough to fry every weapon, every piece of equipment, every living nervous system in range. The guards were about to die. No, Bridget said firmly. Don't kill them. They're just following orders. Ashgar hesitated. Through their bond, she felt the creature's confusion. These beings had heard it, imprisoned it, used it. Why show mercy? Because we're better than they are, Bridget said. We prove that by not becoming them. She felt Ashgar consider this. Then slowly the creature accepted it. Instead of killing the guards, Ashgar released a targeted pulse that disabled their weapons and knocked them unconscious. Precise, controlled, merciful. There are others, Bridget said, feeling it through their connection. Other prisoners. Not just you? Ashgar's response was immediate. Yes, others, kept like cargo, used like machines. Free them too. They moved through the station together. Ashgar tore through walls while Bridget used her maintenance codes to open locked doors. They found 7 other chambers. Each held a captive being, a Corian starfisher, bioluminescent and beautiful, kept in a dark tank, a Teleran earthformer, massive and gentle, chained in a cargo hold. Others, all imprisoned, all exploited. Ashgar freed them all. The chains broke like paper against the Scarith's power. Some of the prisoners were too damaged to move. Others had been captive so long they did not remember freedom. But they all understood one thing. Someone had come for them. Someone cared enough to fight. The hangar bay became a gathering point. Dr. Pinnessy appeared with a group of low-level workers, people like Bridget, who had been as much prisoners as employees. The consortium is mobilizing ships, she announced. We have perhaps 10 minutes before warships arrive to retake the station or destroy it. We need ships, Bridget said. The docking bay has 6 transport vessels. Small, unarmed, but functional. Ashgar moved toward the docked ships, studying them. Through their bond, Bridget felt the creature's assessment. Too small for everyone. Not enough space. Then we make multiple trips, Bridget started to say. But Ashgar had another idea. The great head turned toward the station's power core, visible through the hangar bay windows. A massive fusion reactor that powered everything. Ashgar rumbled and Bridget understood. You're going to destroy the core. Yes. End this place. Make sure no one else is imprisoned here. That will kill anyone still on board. Ashgar sent her images. The station was evacuating. Most personnel had already fled in escape pods. Those remaining were either trapped or choosing to stay. The creature would give warning. Time to escape. But the station itself would burn. Foreman Dulrich, Bridget said. The administrator. They're still here somewhere. Ashgar's presence in her mind was cold. Let them make their choice. Stay and burn or flee and face justice elsewhere. It was harsh, but it was fair. More fair than they had shown Ashgar or any of the other prisoners. The rescued beings began boarding the transport ships. Dr. Pinnessy organized them efficiently, making sure the most injured got priority. Bridget helped where she could, but she stayed near Ashgar. Their bond made it physically uncomfortable to be too far apart now. The last transport was loading when Bridget saw Dulrich. The Vescan foreman was trying to reach a personal shuttle, carrying cases of what looked like stolen goods, profit even in disaster. Ashgar saw him too. The creature moved with shocking speed, placing itself between Dulrich and the shuttle. The foreman raised a weapon, some kind of neural disruptor. He fired. The blast hit Ashgar's chest. The creature shuddered but did not fall. Instead, Ashgar's eyes blazed brighter. Power crackled around its body, blue lightning dancing across scales. Dulrich dropped the weapon and ran. Bridget felt Ashgar's impulse to pursue, to take revenge. But she also felt the creature restraining itself, remembering her words about mercy. Let him go, she said. He's not worth it. Ashgar turned away from Dulrich and moved to the last transport. The ship was too small for the Scarith, but Ashgar could fly. For the first time in 47 years, the creature could finally fly. 6 months had passed since Outpost Talus 7 became a debris field floating in the drift sectors. The consortium tried to spin the story as a terrorist attack. But Dr. Pinnessy's documentation had leaked across every communication network in known space. Thousands of files, decades of evidence, war crimes, genocide, exploitation. Public opinion shifted slowly at first, then faster. Some species withdrew from the consortium. Others demanded reform. It was not enough, not yet, but it was a start. Bridget stood on a clifftop watching the settlement below. 300 beings now called this place home. The planet was unclaimed, far from major shipping lanes. Perfect for people who wanted to be left alone. They had named it Haven because nobody had the energy for anything more creative. The settlement was growing. Prefab structures mixed with native stone buildings. Gardens where Telleran earthformers coaxed food from alien soil. A medical center run by Dr. Pinnessy and a team of volunteers. A school because some of the refugees had children. Ashgar landed beside her with a rush of wind that stirred her hair. The Scarith had regained full strength over the past months. Scales gleaming, wounds healed. Wings powerful enough to carry them both across continents. The creature looked the way it was meant to look. Proud. Free. Alive. "Hey," Bridget said, leaning against Ashgar's warm shoulder. "How was the patrol?" Images flooded through their bond. 3 ships approaching from the north. Not consortium. Independent traders looking for safe harbor. Ashgar had guided them to the landing field. More people. Haven was becoming known. Word spread through underground networks, refugee channels, anywhere people ran from the consortium's exploitation. Some came seeking protection. Others came offering skills, supplies, a chance to be part of something different. "We're going to need more housing," Bridget said. Ashgar rumbled agreement. The creature had become the settlement's guardian, patrolling the skies and ensuring no threats approached. But Ashgar was also helping build. Those same claws that had torn through station walls could shape stone with surprising delicacy. A presence appeared in Bridget's mind. Not Ashgar, someone else. She looked up and saw another shape in the sky. Smaller than Ashgar, but unmistakable. Another Scarith, her heart leaped. That made 4 now. 4 Scarith freed from consortium captivity. Each one had bonded with a human who showed them kindness. Each bond had given the Scarith enough strength to break free. The pattern was repeating across the galaxy. The newcomer landed gracefully. A female Scarith scales a deep forest green with a human man clinging to her back. He slid down, stumbling slightly, then straightened. Young, maybe 20, with dark skin and nervous eyes. "I heard about this place," he said. "Heard you might take us in. What's your name?" Bridget asked. "Harris?" The consortium had her on a mining facility near Cassis Belt. I worked food service. Started bringing her scraps. He looked up at his bonded Scarith with obvious affection. "Her name is Skyfire," Bridget smiled. Of course it was. Every human who bonded with a Scarith seemed to pick dramatic names. Ashgar, Skyfire, Thunderwing, Starfall. The first 3 had arrived with their humans over the past month. Now there were 4 bonded pairs. The Scarith were not extinct. They were returning. "Welcome to Haven," Bridget said. "We've got room. Always got room." She showed Harris and Skyfire around the settlement while Ashgar flew overhead with the other Scarith, re-establishing old social bonds. Through her connection with Ashgar, Bridget felt the creature's joy. The Scarith were social beings. Isolation had been torture as much as the chains. Having others of its kind nearby was healing something deep inside. That evening, Bridget cooked. She had a proper kitchen now in a small house built into the clifftop. Nothing fancy, but it had everything she needed. She made her grandmother's potato and leek soup, the same recipe that had started everything. The community gathered for dinner, as they did most nights. Long tables set up in the central square. Everyone bringing food, sharing what they had. It had become tradition. A human tradition, adopted by dozens of species who had never thought of meals as social events before. Bridget ladled soup into bowls and handed them out. She gave the first bowl to Ashgar, who had shifted to a smaller form to fit at the table. The creature drank the soup slowly, savoring it, golden eyes half closed in contentment. Dr. Pinnessy sat nearby, compound eyes reflecting firelight. "I received a message today," the Eldrosian said. 3 more Scarith have been located in consortium facilities. Volunteers are already moving to make contact. "How many total now?" someone asked. 7 confirmed survivors. Possibly more in unregistered facilities, 7 out of what had once been thousands. But 7 was more than 0. 7 was hope. A young Telleran child approached Bridget nervously. The child was huge, even at 6 years old, with gray skin and a trunk-like nose. She held out a bowl of something that smelled like cinnamon and honey. "For you?" the child said shyly. "My mama's recipe." Bridget took the bowl and tried the food. It was sweet, warm, delicious. "It's perfect." "Thank you." The child beamed and ran back to her mother. Bridget watched her go, feeling something in her chest that was not the bond with Ashgar. Just simple human emotion, pride, connection. The sense that what they were building here mattered. She had never wanted to be a leader, never imagined herself as someone important. She was just a maintenance worker who could not ignore suffering when she saw it. But somehow that had been enough. One person, one act of kindness, one bowl of soup, and the chains had shattered. More would come. Bridget knew that. The consortium would not let Haven exist peacefully forever. There would be fights ahead, struggles, maybe even war, but they would face it together. Humans and Scarith and all the other species who had learned that strength came from caring for each other. Ashgar's presence wrapped around her mind, warm and steady. The bond between them was permanent. She would never be alone again, and neither would Ashgar. Later that night, Bridget stood on her clifftop again, watching the stars. Ashgar stood beside her, wings folded, scales glowing faintly in the darkness. "You know what I think?" Bridget said aloud. "I think my grandmother would have liked you," Ashgar rumbled softly. Through their bond, the creature sent back an image, an old woman smiling, stirring a pot of soup. The image was drawn from Bridget's memories, but Ashgar had added warmth to it. Affection, understanding. "Yeah," Bridget said, wiping her eyes. "She would have loved you." They stood together in comfortable silence. Below them, the settlement glowed with lights. People from a dozen worlds living together, building something new, something better. 3 more ships appeared on the horizon, following the signal Ashgar broadcast into space. More refugees. More people looking for hope. Haven would welcome them. There was always room. The chains were breaking everywhere now. Slowly, painfully, but breaking. And it had all started with one simple act. A girl sharing soup with someone everyone else had forgotten. Sometimes the smallest kindnesses change everything. Sometimes love is the strongest force in the universe. And sometimes all it takes is one person who refuses to look away from suffering. Bridget smiled and leaned against Ashgar's warm scales. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but tonight they had this: peace, freedom, family, and that was enough.